this sermon about that thug life, about that thug life. Ezekiel was 30 years old, and he had been a part of a kingdom that was in decline, and it had fallen to the Babylonian army. Unsuccessful was the rebellion against Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar. So Ezekiel, along with some of the other exiles, had settled into the land. But I want to say on today that in moments like this, God intervenes. God intervenes in Ezekiel's life just like he does our lives, and he commissioned him to speak a prophetic word and sending him to Israel, already living in exiles. Understand that God raises up and sends us prophets. He sends us thugs. Not the kind of thug that you're thinking about. I mean the thugs who are the hope dealers. The hope dealers. When we need them most, the hope dealers, they give us hope, and God continues to raise up prophets and to warn us, but also to give us hope. These are what they call hope dealers. Hope dealers didn't just start during Journeyversary. We were hope dealers way back in the beginning of the Bible. Hope dealers. And thugs, see, the thing about being a hope dealer is not something you choose. The hope dealer chooses you. It ain't something that you say all of a sudden, hey, I want to go out and be a hope dealer. No. The hope dealer chooses you. You see, God doesn't want us to be hoodwinked or bamboozled or led astray by other thugs. The other thugs are the ones that are giving you hate. Spreading hate and hopelessness, as Cornel West says in his book Race Matters. It's called nihilism. There are two types of thugs. The hate that you give versus the hope that you give. And see, as we begin to celebrate domestic violence awareness, and we also celebrate breast cancer awareness, I think we can see that there's a thug on both sides. You see, there's one thug that the hope you give, that you'll have the testimonies of women who have gone through breast cancer and who have stood up, and when things were tough, they stayed in the fight, they kept fighting, and some who have made it, you'll hear their testimony to give hope to others. But then you got the thugs, the people on the domestic violence side, the ones that sling hate, the ones that think they're good enough or bad enough to put their hands on a woman. You see, it's always thugs against the other thugs. I got to be transparent. A lot of y'all are friends on Facebook, but there was a thumb thug that came after my wife on last week. Understand that it wasn't about me being so bad, right? There was righteous anger. I just wanted to let him know that on no occasion, no day, that you're going to cyberbully my wife or any other African-American woman that's in my presence because you don't agree with what they're saying. You understand that I'm the other kind of thug. It wasn't about me wanting to put my hands on him. No, that's too easy. It was about me praying to God not to put my hands on you, and me being obedient to the God. You see, that's what James Baldwin and others, when they talk about black rage, it wasn't tearing the building down. It was a holy response. The grace that keeps us from fighting every day, the grace that God puts in us, the hope that God puts in us that allows us not to retaliate. So Ezekiel, the hope that you give, let's talk about the hope that you give. The hope that you give comes from your personal experiences with God. Ezekiel said, the hand of the Lord is upon me, and he's brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the valley. It wasn't just a regular valley, it was a valley full of bones. And he said he led him back and forth among them, and so he saw all the bones that were laying on the floor of the valley, and the bones weren't just regular bones, but they were dry bones. Not just dry bones, but they were very dry bones. So Ezekiel was just like us. He had plans. Because understand that the very place where the bones were, this is where the temple should have been built. This is where Ezekiel, who had been called to ministry at the age of 30, because that's the age in which you start ministry in the Jewish tradition. That's why Jesus led his ministry when he was 30 years old. So at 30 years old, he thought he would be preaching in this valley, but instead he's in the middle of a valley with dry bones. And so as Ezekiel, just like us, we're in this valley because some of us had the vacations that we had planned. Some of us had weddings we had planned, family reunions. Our school was interrupted. We had to put our lives on pause. We had to hold up. We had to settle the ball. We had to mask up. We had to all of a sudden, instead of having a shopping day on a Saturday of pleasure, we had to stand in line just to get Lysol. If there ever was a valley of dry bones, I think we're living in the middle of it now. But see, we didn't ask to get here, but somehow we were grabbed up and set in the middle of the valley. Now understand, let me explain to you what a valley is. A valley means that on one side there's a mountain. The other side there's another mountain, and in between there, that's what you call a valley. What it also means that in order to get in the valley, that means that one time in your life, you were on top of the mountain. So in order to get down to the mountain in the valley, that means one time in your life that you were on top of the mountain. I don't know if we fell. I don't know if we slipped. I don't know if we were pushed. All I know is we're in the valley. So the tough part about getting out of the valley is that we have to climb out of the valley. So like Ezekiel in the valley that was full of bones, meaning that there was no life in the valley, meaning that there was no hope in the valley. It was a graveyard. Today I want to say that there are days that I feel Ezekiel's pain. Well, I feel that these are some dry days. There are dry places in my life. Like I think all of us have experienced dry places. Because when you say something is dry, when we say something is very dry, we talk about those bones that were bleached by the sun. Understanding even the parasites had gotten their fill of the marrow in the bones. They were hollow bones with no life, no sign of life in them. That was a hopeless situation. Well, we've been talking about hope, and let me just kind of tell you a little bit about what hope is. You know, we have faith and we have hope, and they are related, but they're different. You see, the thing about hope is the best, is you play it in your mind, this is my best scenario in which I expect for it to turn out. The best. Whereas faith is the belief in who will make your hope come to fruition. So first you got to have faith to know that God is able before you can have hope. But so if you know that God is able, so you can know that you should have hope, because God can do exceedingly more abundantly than we can ask or imagine. So if anything that we need to do, we need to hang on to our hope. Don't mean it won't be tough days, stony the road we trod. Doesn't mean that it won't hurt. Doesn't mean that we won't cry. Faith is a complete trust and confidence in something. I mean, so when you can't see it, faith isn't something that you see. You can't see faith. Because if I knew this was a podium, I don't have to have faith to believe it. I have to believe that it's going to hold this 300 pounds up here while I'm preaching. That's faith. I trust, I have ultimate confidence that God will make a way. So our biblical faith, we understand that we look around and we walk around with an anticipation. In other words, we're looking for our change to come. We know that God makes a way out of no way, so we hold our heads up because we're looking for when God is going to show up, because we never know when God, how God is going to show up in our lives. Dry places like this double pandemic on top of what we were already living with. But I understand about the dry places and being on the mountain. And I said, as I was walking this morning, I said, well, God, I don't know how we got in the valley, but at one time we was riding high. I remember the good days because I'm stuck on 44. I'm stuck on 44. I remember the good days. But I remember those days and I say, well, maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I didn't do enough when I was on top of the mountain. Maybe I didn't praise you enough when I was on top of the mountain. But now that I've fallen, slipped, or been pushed in the valley, I appreciate those days when I was on top of the mountain. I understand that if you have a limp, if you get used to it, it's no longer a limp. It's the way that you walk. Others can see you limping, but to you, you walking straight because you can get so comfortable, so complacent on the mountaintop that you forget that there ever was a valley. And see, I believe that America has a lot of dry places. I don't know about y'all, but my great-grandmother used to put Vaseline and lotion on me. It used to scare me how hard she would press on my face. I didn't understand why she would just rub it on me. I would look like a piece of chicken before it goes into the grease. But now in my old age, I understood she knew what I was up against. So she was just putting anointing oil all on my face. She knew that this little boy somehow was had to go into a cruel world. So you got to be greased up, anointed up, prayed up, masked up, Lysoled up, every up that you can get. Because we dry. It wasn't about my dryness. It was about the dryness in the world. Oh, Grandma, I hear you, Grandma. And so America has gotten some ashy places. She's got ashy elbows that keep bumping the least of these. Those ashy elbows, they keep pushing everybody, the vulnerable. The same Thumb Thug, he had ashy elbows because he doesn't know that we are the people of God. America got ashy elbows. We ashy. But not only does she have ashy elbows, she got some ashy legs because she go with what she want to go. You see, when certain people are in trouble, America likes to turn her head. But when other people are in trouble, she wants to go, hey, I'm a savior. But God says, I'm the one that saves, not America. Because our hope isn't built on ashy America, but a sovereign God. Well, America also got some crust in her eyes. She see what she want to see, right? Well, on one hand, that's violence. That begets violence. But you can't do it this way. I want you to do it that way. You do it that way. She complained about the way you do it. So I'm thinking that it's not how we do it, it's the who's doing it. Because America's ashy. But I want to tell you now that God has some lotion for our ashy country. God has some lotion, some Vaseline, some balm for our country. It's a four-letter word that we call hope. So you can put hope on your elbows. You can put hope on your face. You can put hope on your legs. Because God gives us hope. Hope. In the middle of the valley, hope. Dry bones, hope. Dead bones, hope. God gives us hope. Lotion for dry places. Vaseline for dry places. Balm for dry places. The hope dealers came by to remind you that y'all thought y'all was getting bags, but y'all was getting Vaseline. So spread some of that hope to some of the other people because they need Vaseline. Understand that there's always been some thugs that God sends. God sent us a thug by the name of Harriet Tubman. God sent us a thug by the name of Ida B. Wells, where she talked about eloquent rage. God sent us a thug named Martin Luther King. God continues to send us thugs. God sent us a thug right there. They call him Pastor One Chain. But there's going to be some more thugs, because as I was sitting in the office last week, I was answering the phone, me and Rich, Sylvia, and the people started calling. They've been calling about Thanksgiving baskets since last month. Yeah, they've been calling. So I'm going to start answering the phone, hope dealers. And I heard this distinct lady, you know, no presupposition, no judgment. But if you could tell how she talked, it would have been easy for me to judge and say it feel like she trying to beat us. Like maybe she called before. Maybe she got 4 or 5 baskets. But as I was thinking, I said, well, Paul said, why not be defrauded for the gospel? See, understand, those who may take advantage of the things that we're giving, understand this, we're not the judge. The gospel got to do what the gospel does. If somebody comes to the house of the Lord got to come through. No matter if they're beating us, because what we're really saying is God can't replenish what we gave for somebody who perhaps got it in a bad way. That's what we're saying. So I'm like, give it away. Then I had to tell Rev, and I said, hope you don't fire me, but I've been giving away turkeys and meals all week. I've been taking names. I got same last names that may live in the same house. But I said, I will not have the spirit of judgment. Because if it takes a Thanksgiving basket to provide a little bit of hope, if it's 2, 3, 4, 5 turkeys and they have a little hope, then we need Journey to be those hope dealers. Whatever it takes see, the thing about hope is it's not just the hope that you get, it's the hope that you grow. So I think God is telling us, hope check, 1, 2, 3, hope check, hope check. Hope check, do we really have hope? Because he said, Ezekiel, he asked, son of man, can these bones live? He said, sovereign Lord, you know alone. And he said, there's an army rising up. There's an army rising up. So he prophesied as he was commanded. And he said he heard a rattling. He heard a sound and the bones started coming together, bone to bone. Understand how hope works? When you put out a little bit of hope, your hope gets to her hope, and her hope gets to your hope, and this hope gets to your hope, and all of a sudden there's a rallying of hope together. And once that rallying stands up, then we will rise up as a nation, as a church of hope dealers. Not just clergy. Hope dealers. All around. Hope dealers. So get ready to be deputized. I may be letting a little bit out the bag, Rev, but we need some hope dealers. We need you to enlist in the army of the Lord. You see, God said, I'm not having a draft. I want you to enlist. I mean, come sign up. Come sign up to be a hope dealer. No shin splints, no bone spurs, no bone spurs. Dry bones. Hey, dry bones, dry bones. But he said, I prophesied as he commanded. And then he says, he asked, see, God, the hope check, he says, can these bones live? So Ezekiel, that's why I know Ezekiel from the hood, because he said, what you say? We the only people that if you ask the question, we're going to ask you a question to your question. We're not finna give up nothing. He says, what do you say? So all God was saying to him, that this is a hope check. This is a hope check. So Ezekiel said, that, Lord, you know. So it's the hope that you get, the hope that you grow, but also the hope that you give. This is important. This is important. Now I'm going to go all the way back to the New Testament in Luke. So this is something I've heard my whole life, not necessarily understanding it and how to apply it as I do now, but I've heard it my whole life. It says, Luke 6:38 says, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. So in other words, Jesus is saying the hope that you give is the hope you're going to get. So if you don't give nothing, then that may be why you don't have no hope. You got to give, and it will be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over, poured into your lap. For the measure you use or you give, it will be given unto you. Oh, it's a lot in here that our Rabbi Jesus goes on to say. He says the student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be the teacher. Oh, if that ain't a scripture for some hope dealers, yeah, we may be the teachers. But he said, y'all ain't above us. Y'all need to get in your cars and go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Hope dealers. Hope dealers. Oh, we got some hope dealers. We got some hope dealers coming at you. But also it goes down. This is where I like, this is a good part where you know, we get a little sophisticated in our middle class selves with our nice homes and our nice cars, forgetting that where we came from. But he said, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your eye? Let me go back to the King James. You know, why are you talking about the law in somebody else, in the speck, your brother's eye, but you got a log in our eyes? Understand, you may not need a turkey for Thanksgiving, but you need some grace for Thanksgiving. You need some health for Thanksgiving. You need some endurance for Thanksgiving. You see, it doesn't matter. Everybody don't have the same needs. So if you think that your neighborhood don't have no problems, then you don't know your neighborhood. It don't matter where your address is. It doesn't matter what you drive. Problems gonna find you. I live in a place that you got a gate, but guess what? Problems come through the gate. Problems. Don't climb over the gate. They gonna come and find you. Don't look at the speck in your brother's sister's eyes. Jesus said, you hypocrite. First, take the plank out of your eye. Then you can see clearly and remove the speck from your other brother's eyes. So if we see the need, we need to feel the need. If we see the need, then we need to feel the need. That's what it means to be a hope dealer. Because the hope that you give is the hope that you're going to get. So it's important to know that perhaps because the restoration of the spirit comes before or after the resurrection of the body. So in other words, when the bones came together and there was skin on the bones, but they had no breath in them. You see, God knows and understands that this body is real, that we have fleshly temptations, that this body gets tired, that this body gets weak. But God knew, I'm going to put your body together, but now I got to breathe into you. That's where the restoration comes. And so I'm going to go back and kind of unpack the thug thing. It comes from Tupac. Y'all know Tupac. He had it on his stomach. I know some of y'all judged him, right? Because he had a song, Only God Can Judge Me. But see, thug life wasn't about beating up folk. He was paying honor to the ones that, see, the thug life is about the hate that you give the little ones. He was saying that it's important for us to understand that America is giving hate to the little ones. So when he said had thug life on his stomach, it wasn't about tearing up and tearing down. It wasn't about rioting and looting. It was reminding America that you ashy. Tupac, one of our greatest hope dealers, argue with me if you want, But he says this in some of the most beautiful poetry that I've ever heard. He calls it the rose that grew out of concrete. He says this, did you hear about the rose that grew from the crack in the concrete? He says, proving nature's laws wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny, it seems to be by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete, which no one else even cared. Understand that this is our story and this is our song. The seed of hope starts in the ground. We must learn how to fertilize it. We must learn how to make it grow. And understand there's concrete in America that's forcing us, that's keeping us down. There's concrete in America that's holding us down. There's a system of concrete in America that's holding us down. But hope check, 1, 2. The last time that I checked, all the God from Israel, God has been moving concrete. God has been giving us hope. He's been sending hope dealers. He's been sending us people who will tell us, show us that we're that rose in concrete. Can you imagine the army of roses that's going to go out in the community? The army of roses that we're going to call hope dealers that's going to go out in the community, because my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. I'm going to tell you, won't he do it? Won't he give you joy in the morning? Won't he make your crooked straight? Won't he give you what you need? Won't he make you on top? Won't he prepare a table in front of your enemies? And that's not all. He'll provide hope. He'll provide hope dealers. He's a providing God. So as the concrete that America has on us, let us dig deep and plant that seed of hope. Right before I go, I want to share this last story to understand what it means to have hope and a story of hope. And you may have heard me tell it before, but in my family, my great-great-grandmother, they were experiencing a drought. They were sharecroppers right after the Emancipation Proclamation. So they were farmers. That's the way they ate. They couldn't go to the grocery store. They didn't have no money. And so she was trying to make ends meet, trying to provide a meal for our family. Well, you know how children are. They whining, what we gonna eat today? What we gonna eat today? But she was like, I don't know what, I don't know when, but I do know who. So the story in my family that we every time we get at a family reunion, we talk about boiling pot faith. And what my great-grandmother would do, in the morning she didn't know what was going to be in that pot, but she'd have a big pot on the oven, on the stove, and she'd pour the seasoning in there, and it would start the boiling. She'd put it on low and just wait, because she knew God would provide. And she said every day, not a day did they ever have to beg for bread. Somehow, some way, God put something in that pot. And we share that story, true story in my family. We call it boiling pot faith. And it's boiling pot hope. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we know who. And so we need to put that pot on the stove. If you believe and have an expectation that it's going to be that way, then go ahead and make preparations for it. Go ahead and set your vacations, knowing that God is going to provide. Go ahead and start doing the things that you want to do because you have an anticipation. Because I promise you, right now, if we don't be careful, if this thing will overtake us, because there's an enemy in high places. Yeah, there's enemies in high places, principalities that are at work against us. But we can still be that rose in concrete because we have hope. This has been our testimony in America. We have hope. It doesn't matter what they can do to us. We have hope. We have hope dealers. We have hope, but we got to put your hope with my hope, that bone to that bone, and we put that, there's a rattling in the valley. And so can these bones live? Absolutely.